Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers first. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswa, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्युर्मामृतं गम्य ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम। योग दर्शन थर्ड चैप्टर विभूति पाद. After learning about the samadhis, those are like a goal of a yoga abhyasi. Then in the second chapter, Rishi Patanjali told us what kind of a practices we need to do in order to reach to that goal. Now in the third chapter, he is telling us what kind of a powers a yoga abhyasi can cultivate. But then towards the end of this chapter, he'll tell us, be careful not to run after these powers. Yoga sadhana is not about accumulating all these powers. They can be obstacles. Just like he mentioned some low level of obstacles before. These are like even more powerful obstacles. So we got to be very careful about those. So let's look at, open our books, verse number 28. That's where we ended our last week's class. Chandre Tara Vyuh Jnanam. See, sutras are very condensed. So very few words, but a lot of knowledge, a lot of information in there. So in this verse 28, Rishi Patanjali is telling us that by doing sanyam on the moon comes knowledge of the stars' arrangement. The moon, Chandra. So we talk about the outer universe and the inner universe also. So in this verse, definitely he is talking about the moon which we see at night and the stars. If a person is interested in that, can do the sanyam on that. But then there's a moon in our own microcosm also. Our mind is considered a moon. Chandra. So when we maintain a steady, constant contemplation on the mind, we can control and direct our parasympathetic system and regulate the functioning of the central nervous system. That's what he's talking about in this verse. That's how yogis, they could live without diseases, without suffering for a long time. So this body can be regulated properly. So the galaxies of stars stand for galaxies of thought waves, which like stars twinkle, disappear, and shine forth once again. So this is what he's mentioning over here. So all these verses are about deepening our meditation. Deepening. Whether we see the results or not, we are not meditating for these lower results. We want to know ourself, the real self, and merge this self with that absolute. That is a goal of a yogi. Let's look at next verse, verse number 29. Dhruve tadgati jnanam. Dhruve. Dhruv is a pole star. So by performing sanyam on the pole star, Tat means that, Gati means movement, Jnana means knowledge. So by performing Sanyam on the pole star, knowledge of the movement of the stars can be obtained. So Dhruva stands in our body. See, outside is your pole star. We are familiar with the Dhruv Tara. Where is that pole star in our own body? Agya Chakra. So Agya Chakra, or the tip of the nose, the yogi will know beforehand his own destiny as well as those of others. Complete knowledge, Agya Chakra. And Agya Chakra also stands for place for our Isht Devata too, right in the middle of our forehead. This story about Dhruva is very popular, very famous, because it's a historical fact. King Uttanpad had two wives, Suniti and Suruchi. Though Suniti was the queen, the king was very fond of his second wife, Suruchi, the younger one. And each of them had a son. The elder one was Dhruva, and the younger one was Uttam. One day, Prince Uttam was playing, sitting on his father's lap. Dhruv also wanted to sit in the lap of his father. But Suruchi, who is the mother of Uttam, pulled him away, scolding him that he had to do tap to take birth through her in order to have this privilege. Dhruv went to his own mother. He narrated that incident, begged her to permit to go to the forest to do the tapasya and to gain the kingdom. It so happened that the Saptarishis, the 7 stars of the constellation, gave him a mantra. And with that mantra, he steadfastly prayed to Lord Vishnu to bless him with the kingdom. In time, Lord Vishnu was pleased by his steadfast tap, that such a young tapasvi, he was only the age of 8 at that time. So a youthful age, he is doing this kind of austerity. So he was granted his wish and named a star after him. And that is a pole star, Dhruv. We all know this Dhruv Tara. Pole star maintains its position in the sky and also serves as a reference point. But how can it help a yoga abhyasi? By fixing our attention on a single point, which is a Agya Chakra, while maintaining stillness and simultaneously becoming engrossed, we will have the knowledge. Because we are focusing on that who has all the knowledge. That's why, what do we call God? Sarvajnani. He has the knowledge of everything. That's why he is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. So when we fix our attention towards that, we will have the complete knowledge. Complete knowledge of this little universe and the complete knowledge of the outer world also. So this is what Rishi Patanjali is referring to in these verses over here. But again, I should mention that practice we must do. Sanyam starts with the concentration, takes us towards meditation, and ultimately samadhi in that particular point. So that's what the Sanyam on the Agya Chakra is. That is our pole star. Let's look at verse number 30 also. Nabhi Chakre Kaya Vyuh Jnanam. Nabhi is the navel. Chakra, the center. Kaya, the body. View, arrangement. Jnanam, knowledge. By performing Sanyam on the navel center. And the navel center is what? Manipur Chakra. Knowledge of the arrangement in the body is gained. Different nadis emerge from there. By understanding and concentrating and doing the sanyam on these nadis, you can understand the whole body, its constitution, because the solar plexus is the center of the body. Even in the gross way, when our digestive system is okay, we feel healthy. We can forget about this body when this body is healthy. And it starts from the digestive system. And that's where the solar plexus is. So it's the center of the body. It is something like saying that if you understand the sun, you understand the whole solar system. So by Sanyam on the navel area, on Nabhi Chakra or Manipur Chakra, a yogi can gain perfect knowledge of the constitution of its whole body. He will know the activities of his each and every cell, and therefore becomes a master of his own body. All our life we try to become master of outside world. But if we become a master of this body and our mind, nobody can shake us. According to the yogic texts, the navel is known as a Kand Sathan also. Kand means a bulb. And Sathan means a region. So that's why the root of all the nerves is in the navel center. From the navel, this Manipur Chakra, countless nadis branch out. And each root nerve is connected with other nerves also. The whole body, our whole complete body is filled with all these nerves, the nadis. And that's where the prana flows. There are three main nadis, but then there are several branches of these nadis, and they are all connected. They go into the various directions. And what do? They supply energy to the entire system. Energy, the pran shakti. Okay. See, just like our veins and arteries, blood flows in there. But in the nadis, pran flow. The navel is considered to be the pivot of the sympathetic and the brain of the parasympathetic nervous system. When we look at the 5 koshas also, the sheaths of the body, or when we look at the skin, blood, flesh, bone, marrow, semen, we see that all of them function because of the pran in these nadis. Whether we talk about the vata, pitta, kapha, all of them, when they become disturbed, because of the disturbance in the nadis. So that's why Rishi Patanjali is telling us to do sanyam on the Nabhi chakra. We can do it during meditation. We can do it during our asanas also. So if we cannot sit in meditation for long, when we do our asanas, we should definitely, in few asanas, take your mind towards this nadi, Nabhi chakra. So now in the next verse, he says, Kantha kupe kushut pipasa nivriti. Kantha kupe. Kant is this throat pit. So by performing sanyam on the throat pit, so right over here, we all have this a little intent over here. Okay, Kant, coop. Coop word is used for, it's almost like a well. It's a little small well over here. We can see the dip. Kushut means hunger. Pipasa means thirst. Nivriti, retirement, or disappearance, or cessation. By performing sanyam on the throat pit, kantakoop, hunger and thirst retire. Or you can say that cessation of hunger and thirst is achieved. You are hungry or thirsty, close your eyes, concentrate on the. This is called a Vishuddha chakra also. See, just like this was a Agya chakra, this is a Vishuddha chakra, Kantakoop. Throat pit is the center of the gland that secretes the fluid which causes dryness in the throat, resulting in thirst, or also burning in the stomach, which causes hunger. So by performing sanyam on that particular center of the gland, the secretion can be checked, and a yoga abhyasi can obtain mastery over the thirst and the hunger. Certain mudras can also help us to deepen this practice. Kaki mudra, Khechri mudra. If we just combine these mudras with the help of these concentration and meditations, we will definitely overcome thirst and hunger. See, that's how these yogis, they could stay in their dhyan, in their meditation, in the jungles for a pretty long time, without drinking any water, without eating any food, just having a full mastery over their glands with the help of these meditations. Verse number 32. Kurm nadyam sathariam. Kurm nadi. By performing sanyam on the kurm nadi, sathariam, steadiness. So steadiness is achieved by sanyam on the kurm nadi. And steadiness over here means both in the ordinary capacity and a miraculous capacity also. So that means abhyasi becomes so immovable that you cannot move him physically. Even if somebody applies great forces. You remember Angad, when he went into Ravan's kingdom, he put his foot down. And Ravan, he was very powerful, but could not move his foot. That is called a sathariam. And steadiness may also mean steadiness of the body during the state of meditation too. Because sometimes when we are meditating, body just keeps on moving and that can distract us too. So keeping the body perfectly still. And it can also mean perfect mental stability. So all these can be developed by Sanyam and the Kurmanadi. Now the question is, where is this Kurmanadi? So if we need to focus on that, where is it? Kurmanadi is supposed to be situated just below the throat pit. It has a shape resembling a tortoise. That's why it's called a Kurmanadi, just below, right over here. The easiest method to practice Sanyam and Kurmanadi is to meditate it on the point where the chin touches the chest in Jalandhar Bandh. See, that's why it's very important to know all these bandhs also. So not just a knowledge of one part of yoga, but complete knowledge is important if you want to achieve that final result. You can also practice it while doing Sarvangasana. Because during Sarvangasana, you bring your chin down. So in these two positions, the chin touches the chest near the Kurm Nadi. So it becomes easy to locate this Nadi for practicing Sanyam. The functions of our body are performed by 5 types of vital energy, which are called pranavayus, prana, pan, saman, udan, vyan. Pran moves in the thoracic region and controls the breathing. And as you know, apan moves in the lower abdomen and controls elimination of urine, semen, feces. Saman stokes the gastric fire, aiding our digestion, maintaining the harmonious functioning of the abdominal organs. And Udan, working in the throat, controls the vocal cords and the intake of air and food. And Vyan pervades the entire body, distributing the energy from the breath and food through the arteries, veins, and nerves. And there are also 5 upaprans. We often talk about those also. Nag, Krikar, Devdat, Dhananjay, and Kurma. Nag relieves pressure of the abdomen by belching. Krikar prevents substances from the passing up the nasal passages down to the throat by making one sneeze or cough. Devdat causes yawning, inducing sleep. Dhananjay produces phlegm, nourishes the body, and it remains in the body even after death. These are called upapran. That Dhananjay even inflates the corpse. What does Kurma do? Kurma controls the movements of the eyelids, regulates the intensity of light for seeing by controlling the size of the iris also. And the eyes are the index of the brain. Any movement in the brain is reflected in the eyes. By stilling the eyes, That really means by the control of this Vayu, a person can still the thoughts. And that's how we make our brain immobile. In the yogic literature, you can read about the main nadis, like Ida, Pingla, Sushumna, Chitra, Gandhari. There are several main nadis, even though we are mainly familiar with the three, Ida, Pingla, Sushumna. But there are other main nadis also, and Kurm is one of them. The beginning and the end of some of the nadis are described, and others, yogis, they want us to experience those nadis ourselves with the help of our own meditations. So some functions of some are dealt with, others are not. So Kurma Nadi's functions are explained. So whether it affects our eyesight or whether we can find it right underneath our throat. But we have to practice it ourselves. It is there. It's just like our mind is there. Our intellect is there. And our essence, who we are, is there. But we have to still our mind. We have to faith in this philosophy. And we got to dig a little deeper. So by mastery over the Kurma Nadi, the yogi stops the movement of these spokes of the mind. And spokes of the mind are what? Lust, anger, greed, infatuation, pride, envy. Those are the spokes. That's where the mind constantly keeps on going. These are also called the enemies of a yogi, because they don't let us keep our mind steady. But when we have a dominance of the sattva gun in us, we can definitely have control over these enemies. When we have a control over these enemies, what really happens? The friends start to show in our personality. If these are the enemies, who are the friends? Sham, Dam, Uprati, Samadhan, Shraddha. Those are the friends. So by doing these sadhanas, we can remain like a tortoise. Just like a tortoise remains steady, still in a shell. That's how a yoga abhyasi understands all these circumstances, but stays still internally. So physical stillness and also a mental stillness. And he develops emotional stability, which is a prerequisite of the spiritual realization. So emotion has to be completely still. And from there, what really happens? Verse number 33. Murdh Jyotishi Siddh Darshanam. Murdh means crown of the head. Jyotishi, on the light. Siddh means a master, perfected one, adept. Darshanam, a spiritual vision. We often talk about this darshan. We even go to the regular temples just to have a darshan. Do we have a darshan of God there? God is there, but do we have a darshan? Right, sitting on your meditation seat in your own temple at home, you can have this darshan. By Sangyam on the light at the crown of the head, and that is called as a Hesar. Visions of masters and perfected ones are obtained. This is called a spiritual vision. So Murdh here means Sahasar. The light is connected, situated at the, it's like a 1,000-petaled light. Thousands means numerous, right at the crown. So when the light flashes before the mind, it gives rise to the spiritual vision in which the student has direct perception of various masters of yoga. Those masters are able to live even without a body because they have a full control over their voluntary and involuntary mental psychic functions. They can disconnect themselves from their bodies. They can live without a physical body. That's why they are called Siddhs. We cannot see them with these ordinary eyes because if we have not paid much attention to this power which we all have, if we have not done Sanyam on Agya Chakra or Sahasar Chakra, we really cannot see these perfected ones. But a yoga abhyasi can develop a balanced head and a poised heart, and from his visions of the Siddhs, yogis, acharyas, he may obtain guidance and inspiration. Because what is the reason of these great gurus to come during our meditation? They guide us further. They want our sadhana to become even better. That's why we have a vision of those. So it really happens with a progressive practice. Intense light may be seen around the head,
Oh,
particularly above the head. And that is what a murtha is. So it is a tangible light you can plunge into every time you meditate, actually. But in order to really reach there, got to do some sadhana. More and more sattvikta and more intense practice. Let's look at next verse, 34. Pratibhad va sarvam. Pratibha, bhad means from pratibha. Va means or. And this pratibha is a flash of illumination, intuition, or you can call it a spontaneous enlightenment. Pratibha. Va means or, sarvam means everything. Or everything by virtue of pratibha. So that means in the knowledge that dawns by spontaneous enlightenment. So all of a sudden, this bulb turns on, the bulb of spirituality. So that means the powers come by themselves. Flash of illumination. How did Siddhartha become a Buddha? Flash of illumination. That is called pratibha. So through the faculty of spiritual perception, the yogi becomes the knower of all knowledge. That is pratibha. So a yogi can intuitively perceive anything and also everything. By sanyam on the effulgent light, he becomes the knower of all knowledge. All knowledge is mirrored in a yogi. In other words, as the day follows the dawn, the impulsive nature is transformed into the intuitive nature. Because normally we live through our impulses. But the yogi possesses universal knowledge, and that is also called a conquest of the nature, which is called a prakriti laya also. That means a power over this prakriti. So be aware of insight that comes to you when your mind is silent. And this idea of pratibha will be made clearer later on also in this same chapter. Or you can understand, we normally talk about the term intuition. So this is a superior intuition. This is a process of knowledge which is devoid of reasoning. Because as the higher consciousness unfolds, a kind of light is thrown on everything which the mind confronts. This is called knowledge through pratibha. So it's a superior quality. In fact, this is the first stage of Vivek Gyan. We often use the term Vivek Gyan, that knowledge which is gained through the separation of matter and energy, Vivek, the discrimination. So just like sunlight makes everything manifest from darkness, the same way this superior faculty becomes capable of understanding anything and everything. So you can see that in our scriptures, we read about all these different rishis, yogis having powers. How did they get it? Through sadhana. Through sadhana. Years and years of sadhana. So we got to see, do we do sadhana? Or what percentage of our day we are doing any sadhana? How long we sit and concentrate? How long can we control our mind without just going here, where, everywhere? So this kind of a sadhana can take us towards this. Let's look at one more and then we'll stop. Verse number 35. Hriday chit samvit. Hriday, by performing sanyam on the heart. Chit samvit. Samvit is the knowledge or understanding. Chit is the deeper part of the mind. So by sanyam on the heart, awareness of the chit dawns. The whole yogic process is about cleaning the chit. Yoga chit vritti nirodha. So over here, Rishi Patanjali is telling us that if you can do the sanyam on the anahat chakra, hriday is the anahat chakra, heart center. So by meditation and taking the meditation to the level of sanyam on anahat chakra, an abhyasi can gain knowledge about the nature of his chitta. When matter and mind are associated, that consciousness is known as Chit Samvit. Chit Samvit. So awareness of that our Chit, is it getting pure or not? Is it getting clean or not? A yogi can learn to unfold and tap the source of his being and identify himself with the Supreme by cleaning this Chit. We all know that in our daily life, we go through the Jagrat Avastha. Through these five senses, we know that we are awake, Jagrat. Then we go to the sleep also, the Swapana, when our senses are sleeping, but our mind is not. Then we go into the Sushupti, dreamless sleep, where mind and intellect, they're all sleeping. But what he is talking about over here, this Chit Samvit, we go beyond the dreamless state, which is called Turiya. And that is the fundamental transcendental state of awareness. And this fourth state, Turiya, is accessible only by centering our attention at the heart center of our being. So that's what that Chitta Samvit is. By Sanyam on the heart center, the knowledge of the Chit is obtained. Is it getting cleansed? Are we moving towards our goal or not? So next week we'll start with verse number 36, where the knowledge of the Purush he is mentioning, and Purush means the Atma. So let's stop it here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for joining.